Let's roll. All right, here we are going live. Gentlemen, Adrian, how are you, man?
Oh, so good.
Dan, what's
I'm,
up, brother?
I'm alive, above ground, and happy.
Ah, I'm so glad. It's all that's all it takes for you to be happy is just to be
Easy.
above
I'm
ground.
grateful. I'm easy. Keep me breathing. I'll be grateful the rest of my life.
So when you're below ground, I'm just going to check in with you. I expect something different.
I'll show up in your room. Dad, I am the spirit of Christmas past. Give me
I
the
It's
haven't,
money
you know
over.
what? I've not thought about that. That if that's a possibility for spirits in the afterlife, you're definitely going to come fuck with me.
You
And
know it.
I
You
haven't
I
thought
just
about
want to
that.
know. I just want to know, Dan, is your ghost naked or clothed?
naked
Naked
always.
for
Absolutely.
sure, naked.
I've
If
scarred
if
enough
if
lives now. Why would I stop when I'm dead?
if you share a hotel room with them, you find that out pretty quick.
Oh yes, I have multiple times.
I sleep in the nude.
Absolutely. Well, here we are. This week we're talking about the negotiation style, the competitor, and this is our third installment in the negotiation style quiz or negotiation style results series that we're doing on the podcast. We have 5 results that you can um, come to when you take our negotiation style quiz. If you haven't done that, you can go to negotiation.takenewground.com. And there's a reason. There's lots of reasons to do that, but probably the most important reason to do that is to understand yourself. How do you operate? How do you tend to show up in negotiations? Because everything that you have in your life is a result of how you negotiate. So this week we're going to dive into the strengths and the blind spots and some of the points of the competitor. Before we do that, I just want to mention coming in April 20th through the 23rd, we have the Revenant in Boise, Idaho. We're going to gather together. We're going to have some fun. We're going to get into a gym and be stretched and be challenged and show up
And be
and I'm
blessed.
and be
Hmm.
blessed. And I'm really, really excited. And Adrian, last week or last episode, you were talking about the people who are going to be in this room.
Yep.
Man, both participants and team
Yeah.
uh, all around just so excited about I sent you guys a meme the other day of this little kid dancing his heart out, and I said, this is me every time I think about this upcoming training.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best memes I've seen in a long time. For obvious reasons. Well, we won't mention here.
so
good.
good.
So
And
good.
but that's
Yeah.
really, I mean, that is exactly how I feel. I'm just so excited for the people, the humans that are going to be there and the movement that's going to happen. You can check it out. wearerevenant.com. You can check out testimonials there. You can check out some of the things that this training is about, and you can register there as well. We are half full. Probably, I mean, by the time this podcast goes, we're going to be way more than half full. So seating's limited, and we want you there if you're ready to take some risk, if you're ready to find some new possibility in life and in your relationships and in the work that you do with your teams. Come have it. It's here for your
Yeah.
taking.
And I would just say, you know, if you're looking for ways in which to be loose when you're in constraint, I think in life, we all get under pressure and we all have like a million things coming our way and have things that seem impossible. And that can generate for us an internal, we'll talk about it in the competitor, because this happens a lot for the competitor. We feel this tension. It can kind of buckle down and get really scarce and just survive our way through something. And the Revenant is a perfect opportunity to feel some constraints, right? Feel some, because and it's not like, I mean, we're going to constrain ourselves and put ourselves and decide to live by some ground rules. And anyway, being loose under constraint, I don't know who doesn't want to feel more freedom in the midst of trial.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, if that's of interest to you, you're going to love the Revenant. I never want to just talk about the Revenant without talking about, what's there for people. Can I
Yeah.
read a text real quick? Let me just read
Yeah.
a text real
Please.
quick. So, because I reached out to a former participant, and she's a very successful entrepreneur. and I asked her to do this testimonial about it, and then she said, I would love to, yes. And the Revenant was so hard and so confusing and so upside down to me, and I really struggled with it. And then it shifted my way of thinking and grew inside of me to this day. It's not what you experience, it's how it lives in you. It's a weird thing. I'll get on it, as she said. So it's like she's an artist and she's brilliant. And it's
She's brilliant.
there's mystery to it. But also last thing, I'll shut up, I promise at some point. But there is the aim of us as trainers is to generate an environment where revelation can happen, where we can have these types of moments. I still have mine. I responded to that text just saying, I remember what happened for me 12 years ago. I remember a handful of those conversations, a couple of those moments, they still live in me. Like that moment, which was a revelation. Like once you have that moment, it's not like a good idea or not like a sound bite that I got from a book. It's actually like a whole, like, holy shit, that's what's here. This is what
Mm,
I've been up to. Like this, I won't be the same after that epiphany.
mm.
So anyway, that's our commitment as trainers, is to be with you in the room in such a way that you can have those moments, and we're having them ourselves. So that's our commitment to you, is promise we're all in. And if you're an all in type of person and looking for a new edge, this is the place to be.
Oh, well
Amazing.
put. Well put.
Yeah. I love hearing that from her, man. That's
Isn't that great?
so great.
Isn't
Yeah.
it great?
So join us if you want to, if you're ready, if you're willing to jump in and find something new for yourself and for your team, for your relationships. That's the opportunity. So let's dive into the competitor. I also want to mention we're now broadcasting our recordings of these podcasts live to our YouTube channel. The reason we're doing that is so that we can interact with you in the conversation. So you can literally go there when we're recording these live and you can ask questions real time. And we will be selecting one or two of those to answer at the end of the recording if anybody shows up. There is that part.
And how do they know when to go there? Like, are you sending out emails or?
Yeah. So if you're on our email list, you'll get an email that says we're going live, and it will give you both the time and the link to join us. So very, very simple. It's just like jumping on YouTube to watch a video, yet we're live and you can interact with us while we're doing that. So we'd love to see you there. We've had lots of feedback, or some, I won't say lots, we had some feedback from people that say, hey, it'd be really nice to be able to submit some questions to you guys or to get clarification on some of the things you guys are talking about. This is your opportunity. So come join us live. We would love that. There's a extra level of vulnerability all around, to be able to interact that way while we're recording these things. So, competitor, let's start with the strength. Ability to argue a point or a position. When we talk about the ability to argue a point or a position, what are we talking about? What ability? Let's spell this out, play it out just a little bit. What ability are we referring to?
Oh, the ability to argue a point or position.
I left it for you because I figured you'd know.
Because I'm good at this or because I'm bad at this?
No, because you're good at it,
Well,
but
I
you're not a competitor. I mean,
yeah,
competitor style. You're certainly a
yeah,
competitor in
certainly a
sports.
competitor, and can get way too competitive. I mean, anyway, I think there's going to be plenty of confessions on this episode, but um, you know, I think about this a lot, and I think about it because this point is actually, I think, one of the things that brings me the most joy in life is being able to put language to reality. There's I don't know that there's any I've got tons of bias in this conversation, but if you can explain and put language to something, to an experience or to an outcome or to a mood, to a moment, it just gives you such a level of advantage in life. Because like if you can like take something, some intuitive sense, and like put language to it where you can see it, like the experience gets out of your body, gets out of your head, gets in front of you. um I think as coaches, we do this all the time where we're like, actually, we're putting language towards what the person really wants. And all of a sudden they take 3 steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
because like, you know, they found resistance, but the resistance inside of them was because they were like moving towards a fog. And once like the sun comes in, if I just stretch this analogy, once the sun comes in and the fog, see what's ahead of them, and they like naturally move forward. And so people that, you know, can do this have that ability to put language towards what somebody wants, and we just move towards our preferences. We don't get a vote on that, really. Like people just naturally lean towards you know, what they prefer.
And
Oh,
anything else? Kind of left me hanging there.
You want me to keep going?
No.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about the competitor and
Yep.
their ability to argue a point is definitely they're going to be adept at using language to make their perspective known.
Right.
And they're going to be persuasive in their ability to do that, which means
Yeah.
they're going to have a strong command of their own presence, and they're going to be attuned to how their presence impacts yours or the other parties. So they're going to assert themselves in a way that's going to get the other party to kind of see their point of view.
Mm.
Now, we'll talk about this later. But there's a disadvantage to that as well.
Sure.
Because the tendency is to think, well, if they see it my way, of course they're going to want to do it. Right.
Yeah.
That's the meta conversation behind the competitive style of negotiating. And they certainly will get their way a lot. Now, if they run up against somebody who's flexible, my brother's one of the greatest negotiators, my brother Corey, I've ever met. And he's so flexible, right? But the competitive style just falls prey to him on a regular basis because they're so predictable, right? You know where the competitor's going. They're only interested in their interest, and they're only interested in getting their interest, and they don't really care about the other party's interest, except a little bit if it helps them get their interest.
Mm.
So if I'm the other party, I know that, and I know where they're headed. You know the old saying: if you know where the elephant's headed, you can dig a hole, and he's going to walk right into it. And
I've
I've
never
literally
heard that old saying. I've never heard that old saying.
No.
All right.
Well,
if we're on an elephant hunt, I'll write that down.
Well, I remember watching my brother in the I'd go visit him and he'd be selling cars, and he would sell these vans that were they were modified so the price wasn't just stuck. You can adjust the price according to what you add to it. And he knew when a competitive style came in because their basic statement is, I want the best price. I want the best price. And that's all they're thinking about. So he would pump the price up $2,000, make an error in the numbers as he's working with them. And if they're competitive style, what do they want to do immediately? Close that puppy up.
Sign it.
Before he recognizes. That's right. Before he recognizes a mistake. They're honest. They're going to show the mistake. And so then he's got somebody. But he said so many people, the competitive styles are just signing it. They think they got the best deal, and they did in their mind, but they just bought the van at full pop. Right. And so driving hard about their own interest that they're not paying attention to everything else around them. So
there's
quite myopic. I just think about, especially when I'm negotiating things with my wife, I tend to just think, let me just find the perfect way to describe this thing, and that's going to do the whole trick. Let me just define the argument perfectly. In the meantime, she says to me, this is where you're getting manipulative. And I'm like, what are you talking about, me getting manipulative?
Let's argue about that.
I don't know what you're talking about here. I'm not being manipulative. Let me just say that one more time. And if I keep repeating myself, I know that I've digressed in my negotiation style when I keep repeating myself, thinking when I say this same thing the 7th time, it's going to work. It's just like, a little, I don't know, doing the dial on the safe. Let me just try this one more time. And I get really myopic, to your point, Dan.
Yeah. This to me is like the experience of negotiating with one of my children. when they have the 3 or 4 reasons why they should get the thing that they want to get, right? Like they want the extra TV time, or they want the extra treat at the end of the night, or whatever. And I ask them, or we're talking about it, and they keep repeating the reasons why, the same reasons over and over again, why they should have the right to this television show or this treat or whatever. And that, to me, that what you guys are describing, and as I read the results for the competitor, that not to degrade those who are falling into this result, but that to me feels like the experience of the competitor. Like, I have all of these reasons that I should have this, and that gives me the right to the resource. So that's one of the bullet points on the results, is that the competitor believes they have the right to the resource that they want. And that your needs are just not as important as mine. And so I'll just keep repeating the reasons why I should get what I should get, and expect that that's enough reasoning, or that's enough wherewithal in the negotiation to get what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're working down the scale right now. If you guys have been listening, we're working down the scale, and the further down the scale you get, the other party is further in the distance. So, like, I don't know if you guys could pick up that nuance. Like, I think is what Chad's saying. Like, even we're in any of these negotiations, the scarcer we are, or the more limited our view tends to be, the other person just keeps getting farther away from us. They like their needs, their interests, how to do it. It keeps getting further away, as as one way to think about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good distinction. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good distinction. You could, start to do some observation in your negotiation, how much you consider the other person's position and what they're looking for, and how much you're fighting, not only to get what you want, but also a win for them. And that can,
One of the things I do when I coach, or even when I'm negotiating or preparing, I keep stating what their interests are. So, like, you're here because blah, blah. I just want to remember you're here to have this happen, and this is what's most important to you. Is there anything else? But also on my team, I want to make sure this is why we're negotiating this. This is, what are we doing here? What's the value of this? So we don't get caught up in the minutia or some psychological reaction. Interesting to note that the studies done through negotiations, that what breaks an agreement most often is not is 87% of the time is cognitive. It's how we're perceiving what's going on.
The competitor views negotiation as conflict, and conflict as negative. So that's interesting, right?
Yep.
So there isn't that, if I got to negotiate with this thing, that means we're butting heads.
Yep.
We're opposing each other, rather than working together to find how, as you mentioned earlier, Dan, how big this pie can be. So those of you who are listening, if you find yourself avoiding negotiation because that ultimately means conflict, and conflict is bad, there's opportunity for you to reframe. And that's the other thing I want to, Adrian, you talked about, we're moving down the scale. Well, we are moving down the scale. The good news in that is that if you find yourself in one of these results, in one of these styles, is that these are not, this isn't a personality assessment. This isn't this isn't fortune telling. This is getting connected to current reality. And there are other opportunities, other possibilities available to you, but knowing where you are is the first step to something new. Right. So I want to keep harping on that, make sure that that's clear. This isn't a destiny. This isn't a prescription for your future. This is an opportunity to get connected to it.
Right on.
So the blind spot that we outline here is becoming dogmatically combative, positioning the other parties, and creating stalemates that undermine your interest. And this is the lack of flexibility that exists, as Dan, as you were talking about. There's it's like your feet are in cement, and if people don't come to you, then it's a stalemate. It's done.
Yeah, one of the first indicators you're sitting across from a competitor is how stingy they are with information that has no bearing or threat to their interest, but just out of the sheer fear that somebody might be able to take advantage of the information, they hold on to, the information so that they don't lose any advantage they might have if they shared it. And that's usually that's what creates problems, because then the other party then is aware that their interests are not going to be considered unless they exactly line up with the competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. I find, like, no wonder it's interesting, like, or it makes sense to me that negotiation looks like conflict always,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're so positioned and the only way out of this is that you get exactly what you want for the reasons that you say you wanted, it's going to be conflicted. There
Yep.
is no flexibility. There is no opportunity to learn or curiosity, because you're dead set on what the outcome is and why you should get it.
Yeah.
That old saying, I forget where the quote's from, but like, seek to understand before you're understood. A competitor seeks to be understood and might or might not care about understanding the other side, which just generates a whole bunch of distrust, right? It's not a generous exchange. We're coming at it positionally.
Hmm.
It's not a dance,
Yeah.
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 It's a bullfight.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's like
The matador.
it's Matador.
Yeah,
And
I know.
the competitor's coming right at you. They're going to go after that red flag. Poof,
Yeah.
bullfight. You're
Yeah.
not going to dance. You're just going to, unless they hook you, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah. Very predictable. Yeah, it's a very predictable position. Well, great. This is fantastic. Thanks so much for this conversation about the competitor. Again, if you haven't taken the negotiation quiz, you can go negotiation.takenewground.com. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Our pleasure. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Good to be here.
Bye-bye, everybody.